Hey everybody, welcome to devlog number 2 for MageQuit Dungeons. You just watched some combos that have emerged from development so far. We're going to go over these combos and their parts in more detail, but first we're going to need to talk about the upgrade categories. Okay, the upgrade categories are weapons, enchantments, trinkets, and blessings. Weapons are essentially active abilities, so if you have a bow, you press A or whatever to make it shoot an arrow. Pretty straightforward. Enchantments are upgrades that are specific to a specific weapon. Things that are more specialized to that weapon, okay? Trinkets are player specific, so things like health increase, armor, those are boring examples, but you get the idea. And then blessings are improvements to your whole party, so essentially trinkets, but for every player instead of just an individual player. Okay, for the first combo, we're going to use Rainbow, which is a bow that can load multiple arrows into it over time. Okay, so let's hit play, full screen. Okay. Alright, so this bow by itself looks like this. You shoot it, and then you can see the little dots above the left side of the health bar that show the extra arrows are loaded in. Okay. So by default, you can shoot 3 if you wait long enough. Okay. Next we have Prism, which is an ultimate that copies whatever passes through it. So why don't we use Fireball just to show you how it works with any other spell. Okay, we got this, and then boom, 3 fireballs come out. Okay, but what's cool is that if you use Rainbow, you kind of can stack multipliers. Okay, so if we go back to this, full screen. Okay, so now we have this, and then boom, 9 arrows. Okay. But in the original combo video, we had a couple of enchantments going on. We have Focal Cord, which what it does is it's specific to Rainbow, and what it does is it spreads your initial shot out a little bit more, but the arrows will then converge after a while. Okay, and then there's a similar upgrade called Focal Lens for the Prism, which does a similar thing. So when you can combine both of them, you end up with a big spread, and then everything kind of comes back together into one. So okay, so yeah, Focal Cord, Focal Lens, play, full screen, full game. Here we go. All right, so I'm gonna get back here. These guys try to close the gap. Maybe I should have picked different enemies. It's okay. All right, let's try it. So ultimate, and then boom, lots of arrows. 1, 2, boom, lots of arrows. Okay, so that's the first combo. What's really cool about this combo, though, is the arrows can each apply an effect because each one is its own projectile, right? So if you have a trinket, like here, let's add primary ignite. Okay. So here, let's see how that looks. So full screen. All right, so I really wish they would stop closing the gap. Okay, here we go. Boom. Okay, so that put a lot of stacks of ignite on them. They don't last very long because it's just the basic level of ignite, but if you get that trinket more than once, it can do a lot of damage. Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, get out of here. I had nothing. Oh. Okay, so that ignite was enough to kill him. Okay, for the second one, we had well, it's called Gauntlet, but in here, I think I just call it Punch. Okay, so let me turn this off, and then I'll just show you how this one works by itself. Okay. So you punch. If it hits another unit, it triggers the damage again on both units. But what's cool with this ability, and what we didn't really intend, is there's an effect called Electrify. And the way that the punch works is it will apply an effect initially, and then if the unit that you punch collides with another unit after you punch it, it will apply that same effect again to both of those units that collided. And charge, well, that's not charge, we call it Electrify now. Electrify is kind of like capacitor from MageQuit, if you're familiar, where if you apply it to an enemy and then that enemy touches another unit, they'll take damage and get knocked away from each other. So it wasn't really intentional at first with this ability, but it's a really cool synergy that we found. Okay, so full screen. Let's see if I can. Okay, they're gonna hit each other. All right, punch, punch. Okay. All right, so that was pretty cool. But what's cooler? Well, if you stack more of that, you can end up with some pretty nasty amount of damage. So here, okay, he's gonna swing, swing. Okay, now I'm gonna punch him into him. Okay, so a lot of damage, and it's really good for cleaning up these little guys too. Okay, but if you want even flashier version, like from the combo video, there is a blessing called electromagnetism. And what this does is it prevents the primary charge from discharging all at once. They discharge one at a time, but what's cool is they also anything that's electrified will get pulled towards other things that are electrified. I'm so bad at this game. Okay. Let me get this lined up. Okay, here we go. Okay, just kill it. Punch. I'm gonna die. Okay. Okay. That didn't look any different because he didn't have that much health. Hey, there we go. That was cool. Okay. I'll probably have to start this one over. Let's do that again, but this time on the big guys. Ah, he got away. Okay, let's switch up the enemies here. Let's do cloner, cloner, cloner. Here we go. Try again. Okay, full screen. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Ah, that's cool. Let's try it with another primary charge. Okay, here we go. Okay, I actually just realized that we can sort of combine the first two combos together. So if we use Rainbow instead of Punch or Gauntlet, and we do, let's just say we do like 2 primary charges, Focal Cord, Focal Lens, and Electromagnetism. I think this could be pretty cool. Maybe we add another cloner. Let's see how this looks. Full screen. Okay, 1, 2. So. That's really cool. Okay, let's move to the third combo. This one's a little more complicated. Maybe a little bit too overpowered as well. Probably gonna need to nerf it in the actual demo when we get that out. Well, what's interesting with this one is it doesn't use the primary really. We just need dash because it has a low cooldown, and then Arrow Storm. The way this one works is whenever you use your movement ability, for the next 5 seconds, probably too long, but for the next 5 seconds, it will automatically launch an arrow at every nearby enemy. Okay, and what's interesting about this ability is that it's incredibly good against hives, because hives spawn enemy units whenever they take damage. So what ends up happening is you get kind of like an infinite loop of damage, where you hit the hive initially, it spawns a unit, you spawn an arrow, it hits the hive again, which spawns another unit, which spawns another arrow, and it continues to loop over and over and over. So here, I'll just show you how that looks. Okay, here we go. For real this time. Okay, so you do that, but then you're surrounded by enemies, which can be pretty dangerous. But if you dash again, then it will attack each one individually as you approach them. Oh, there's the cooldown. Okay. Okay, so in the full combo, this is an actual build I had while testing the game. In the full combo, I had an ultimate called Omnicast, which will cast your primary like 12 times in a row. Okay, but then there's an enchantment for it, which we can just drop these enchantments. There's an enchantment for it called Omni Mobility, which will cast your movement ability 12 times in a row. 12 is probably too many. We'll see. So here, let's see how it looks. What's interesting is having Omni Mobility with Omnicast when you have dash is kind of awful normally, but if you have Aerostorm, it's really not bad. Because you can, really all it does is close the gap between enemies, and then you'll dash in circles around them until you hit them all, which is pretty cool. For the last and final combo, we'll use Trap, and we'll use Prism again. And also Quick Swap, which is a movement spell you probably remember me using early against the big guys, which switches the position, your position with the nearest enemy. So let's try it out. Okay. So you throw one of these. Nope, you ran into it. Okay, try again. So swap. Boom, he hits the trap. Okay. Now we'll try it with Prism. Okay, we got the 3. Now do a swap. Pretty good because they all get pulled into the same cluster of traps. Okay. Okay, let's add an enchantment to this combo called Dragnet. It's an enchantment for the trap weapon, and what it does is whenever an enemy gets hit by one of your traps, it will tether the nearest trap to that enemy. So what's cool is it kind of can end up with a sort of a chain reaction. Okay, so let's check out how that looks. Okay. That's pretty neat. Alright, let's do ultimate. 3. I really like seeing that combo against the guys that split. That's a case where the swap is really good. Alright. Prism. Okay, that's it for my section of the devlog. I hope you enjoyed learning about some of the combos we've found in the game so far. As we add more variety to the game, there will be exponentially more of these, and we can't wait to see what the community discovers when we have a demo available. Next up is Chad's art section of the devlog, so stick around.
Here are a bunch of different cave assets I've made for MageQuit Dungeons. I'll be going over the wooden ones I've made first, and then kind of go over the stone ones later. So, I know it probably seems like a lot, but I'll just go through. So I kind of started with this attempt here. I wanted it to look a little bit messy, like it could be destroyed, because it can be destroyed. So anyway, got some like loose ropes here, palisades here. The idea with these structures also is that they're in separate parts, so you can take them, drag them out. Like if I wanted a structure that looked like this, which is not that great, but let's say if I did, I could group them as one object, change the origin point so that it would, be scaled from that point or like rotated. It basically help where the spawn point is when I put it in the world, but it's not up to the side or something. But anyway, so yeah, I would basically pick and choose to make different structures out of all this stuff. So having made a lot of different assets here, I could definitely mix and match and make all kinds of variety. So I'm going to get rid of that. And this idea here is to kind of have a like a mine shaft that comes out from the top of the wall, and then the units can come up on this land portion or on the ground portion and attack over top, and then the player can hit this part and kind of destroy it, and I guess the units would fall down from it. So yeah, still working on that portion. And something else I wanted to go over were the different, kind of like why the gradient comes up. So normally the light source is from up high and goes down, but in the game there's the light source will be closer to the bottom from the lava and from different torches in the environment. So, which I'll be showing you in Unity later, but yeah, anyway, so I'll keep going. Here's some like different ideas that I've gone through. And then kind of after I did this part, I wanted to mess with like some stone objects as well. And so I'll move to that part. Wherever it is. Okay, it's over here. Yeah, so in my Blender file here, I added a slant as reference to kind of how the cave slants in the game, so that I need to keep that into account when I have objects that want to go alongside it. And so, for example, I wanted to make a stone pillar, and I needed to have a good slant that matched that of the wall. And so at this point, it kind of looked like a toothpick. And then this is the toothpick pillar once I gave it a little bit of a stone texture. And when I put it in game, it was just like way too thin. So it kind of transitioned to this one here. But because this part on the side was too thin, when I put it alongside the wall, you could hardly see it. It was covering up this portion, which I really needed this part to show, to kind of show the 3D-ness of it. So as these are the different iterations I did from right to left. So I started here, brought it in more, and then one thing also that was interesting was right down the middle here. I made it so the two gradients on each side here are slightly different to help make it, I guess, appear a little bit more rocky. Over here, they're the same color. And then over here, they're different. So anyway, going past that, you can see that it's getting a little bit like thicker and thicker and thicker. And then I also bumped the this dark portion this far, or this way, so that it could really stick out from the wall. And then this was the final iteration here. So this torch thing is just a placeholder, so I can grab that, move it out, but I'll be showing you the VFX portion of that. But I just wanted to see how it looked like with a kind of like a diamond or a pyramid shape in it, because that's the shape I want for the torch. And then also just keep in mind that kind of like this model portion, because this is the same or a similar model to what I'd use for the VFX. So just to showcase that it's a 3D object in there, not just like a 2D flame or something. Yeah, so then I'll jump into Unity and show you how these objects look in game. Oh, I forgot one asset. So I wanted to go over the gates real quick. So this is the reference image I took from in-game to show the shape that I would need to have the gate fill. So I brought them in here as reference, and then the first attempt was this right here, but it's you know, just the door portion kind of matched this door. But I found that when in-game, if the door was on this part down here, it was really hard to tell that it was a door. So I decided that I needed some side pillars next to the wall to kind of indicate better that it's a wall from any angle. So this is the different iterations I did to get to that point. So I textured, this initial wall, and then kind of added some placeholder pillars here, just to bring that into Unity to see how it looked with that shape. And then I was going to spend more time doing the rock texturing later. And then this is with some rock texturing. And then up here, I started adding some of the like golden bowls down here to add torches, which are the same bowls I use down here for the pillars. And then the problem with that, though, is that it was just way too long. So the parts just jut too far out, and I don't want it to be taking up too much space. And then so I brought them up to help contain them in a smaller space. And then I was going to go over the different sort of the different gradients on here and why I did it. So it goes from light to dark here because the light source is on the bottom from the lava and the torches that are on the bottom. And then I'll also be having a light source here on these torch bowls. So because of that, I made this part darker here, and then below is a little bit darker. You know, same thing here. And then I did that with both sides. And then I guess another thing to mention is that the top of the cave wall is going to be like very, very dark. So I try to make sure that the top of any assets that go along the wall that reach the top have the darkest part up on here, because it's pretty messy UV data, but basically the idea is that anything that's in the top here reaches this part, and anything on the bottom generally goes on the bottom down here. And then that's the case for these doors, which these doors will be scaled down, or not scaled down, but they'll be brought down when you walk through. So it'll kind of go down, probably have some particle effects come down here, shoot up, and then as it goes back up, it might have some particle effects kind of shoot, like some small rocks and stuff. Okay, so now I'm going to go into Unity and show you how it looks in game. So here's a Unity scene with a bunch of assets dropped in. Look how cute that little pet is. So something that I need to add on this pet is I need to make this upper lip a little darker so that you can know that entire area is a lip. But anyway, okay. So here's the gate that I was talking about before. You can tell that, this light kind of makes this part lighter, and then this part is darker because it's underneath the torch, and then this goes from light to dark. Here's the pillar, the stone pillar that we talked about before. Dark right under the torch, and then it gets light to dark right above the torch area. And the other thing to mention too was that before I was showing you the 3D shape of that torch, and this is kind of a similar shape in action. And this is two shapes technically. So here's one, and then another similar shape is underneath it. Pretty much duplicated the same effect from this torch as that torch to keep the consistency. And I'll show you what it looks like in game view. Okay, let me unmaximize and bring it to game view. Yeah. So the idea later is that So something else I wanted to go over are some of these different status effect orbs that I had made. Here is the fire one here. And so I'm going to go over each part. Here is the outer flame. It's really on a sphere, yeah, so it's 3D and it's drawn to the front where everything else is hidden behind it. And this darker portion is using the same shader, but is laid behind so that it makes it, yeah, seem layered, even though they're like in the same position. If that makes sense. Okay, yeah, let me pull that one out as well. Oh, wrong one. Okay, so here's the dark portion, and as you can see, it kind of fits, you know, goes behind the yellow portion here. Okay, so then I created a gradient. This, I think, is on a sphere. No, this is a 2D image that's laid in between. I don't know, it's behind both the red flame and the yellow flame here. And another thing to mention too is that I have a subtle gradient on here for the yellow flame. Excuse me. So it gets a little bit darker here, and as you go up, it gets brighter. And then the last portion is I think it's a 3D sphere that just you know, gets smaller and bigger. So yeah, anyway, it's pretty much that one. And I'm just gonna go over another one as well, just for fun. So this is the air one here. So, you know, you got this one that goes in the back to kind of add some depth, as though it's the same the effect that goes back and forth. And then, you know, another gradient in the middle, similar orb that goes, you know, bigger and smaller. And then you got a difference with this one is it has like a sort of like a border around it. And the reason it has that is that it helps draw attention to it and add contrast in the game, no matter like what the background is, because you've got some dark colors and then some very bright color, like the dark part in the middle and then the bright part on the outside, that no matter what environment it's in, one of those two things will help draw attention to it. So like if it's in a dark background, you got this white part that you can see, and then, you know, vice versa for the other thing. Yeah, and so the last thing that I wanted to mention is that currently the world map is at an angle similar to this, and we're thinking about changing it more to a more immersive angle, something like that. And for this, we would need to have these different characters rotated in to kind of look more at the character or your player character as you go in. And I would be adding in a lot of like stone assets, similar to the pillars and the doors and stuff that you saw earlier, and kind of make this whole area look more like a dungeon. And probably spread these islands out a bit more, but I think that this helps showcase better like what the creatures look like. You can kind of tell better from here than up top. The silhouettes are a lot more obvious. So I think, yeah, it'll be more clear who you're fighting, as well as make it look maybe a little bit more daunting and immersive. Thanks for watching our very first devlog. If you enjoyed the format or have suggestions, please let us know in the comments so that we can keep improving these in the future. There are 3 things I'd like to mention. First, if you like the video, please like and subscribe. 2, wishlist MageQuit Dungeons on Steam, so you'll be notified when the game comes out, and then also it'll help get more eyes in the game when we launch. And then 3, if you want a deeper dive into the dungeon generation stuff, or just want to support us, check the link in the description below for that as well. And then, speaking of patrons, this video would not have happened without our existing patrons, so here's a special shout out.